Commentary, rah, rah, rah. Who cares? No one. Sis boom bah. This title was constructed entirely out of twigs and dead hookers and then made to look like a simple computer graphic title. I could have just used a simple computer graphic title in the first place, but that wouldn't have been fun. This clip of Doc Brown as a Ghostbuster comes from a 1989 promo video that Universal Studios made to promote their Florida park, which would open the following year. The idea is that Doc Brown's going into the future when the park is open, and he's going around the park and interacting with all the different attractions, and here he is interacting with the Ghostbusters show. Doc Brown as a Ghostbuster is too much awesome 80s to even process, so I knew I had to use that clip somewhere, and I had no logical place to use it, so I just put it there. So here's my method of using a meme without actually technically using the meme. And one little nitpick I have about Doug's performance here is that he accidentally says Christopher Lloyd went back to the Ice Age, when actually Christopher Lloyd sent us back to the Ice Age, but it's a minor nitpick.
What do you need, a fucking roadmap?
That roadmap line is an homage to Barton Fink, one of my favorite movies. And I was really nervous about this bathroom stall shot, because obviously the bathroom is the one place on property where it really violates a bunch of social contracts if you film anything. But at the end of the day one day, I noticed there was a restroom right by the parking garage where the sink was across from the bathroom stalls, and no one was in there, and I just grabbed my camera and recorded me shaking the door for a few seconds and then immediately ran like hell out of there. I got in my car, and I didn't even pull over to check the footage until I was safely off Universal property. And by the way, that bit back there where Doug said, "I think that would be just darling," that was not in the script. He improvised that, so thank you again, Doug. So we're coming up on the T-Rex sequence, which I don't think I gave a fair shake. I think I was too hard on the T-Rex in this ride because, number one, when you consider that this is pre-CGI, it is pretty impressive. And also, watching this on the giant Omnimax screens was a lot scarier than watching it at home on the DVD special features, which is how I've become used to watching this ride footage. And this shot was shot at the Jurassic Cafe on the lower lot at Universal, and that was Jared banging his fist on the underside of the table to get that ripple effect, which still didn't quite work, but, you know, what are you gonna do? I left my bass and amplifier in my other jeans. I love that little involuntary eye dart I give right there. It's such a subtle thing that I didn't even really mean to do, but a lot of times the difference between a take that makes it to the episode and a take that doesn't is just little involuntary movements like that. And by the way, the music I use in that montage is the theme music for the 1991 revival of Land of the Lost, which had one of the catchiest theme songs I've ever heard, even more so than the original show, but the rest of the show was eminently forgettable. And that, of course, was Luke Ski again, parodying his own song with Mediocre T-Rex. And the gentleman in front of the Pokemon 3 poster is, of course, Garrett Snook of What We Had to Watch. It is kind of ironic that the ride didn't open until 1993 on the West Coast, the same summer that Spielberg was changing the face of how dinosaurs and everything in Hollywood would work with his magical CGI thing. That effect of Biff falling into the one big pile of shit never worked the way I hoped it would. Recently on YouTube, someone uploaded the original work print of the ride film, which includes an alternate ending in which Biff is doused with manure when he gets back to the Institute for no real reason other than so he can say, "I hate manure," because Lord knows this ride didn't already have enough catchphrases. And that Mormon joke is not a reference to anything, it's just kind of a non sequitur. Not every joke I write is a reference to something. I know that's preposterous, but it's true. Another fun fact about the ride from the Coffee Table book, apparently Tom Wilson improvised most of Biff's dialogue in the in-car monitor. They just showed him the ride film and he just riffed as Biff for a while, and a lot of that stuff wasn't scripted. And I just couldn't resist this Cloud Atlas joke. Originally, I had an idea for a much longer bit which went into the whole history of the Tannins and how all the Tannins were assholes and how one Tannen kid tried to break the cycle by being nice and he was shunned by his family or something. But again, the bit just got too involved, and then I was going to call back to it by casually calling Biff Loud Atlas. Like, meanwhile, Loud Atlas here, you know. But ultimately, I decided the long bit wasn't really worth it, but the Loud Atlas pun was just too good not to use somewhere. One of the most scathing criticisms of Back to the Future the Ride that I've ever read from someone I really admire was in Kevin Murphy's book, A Year at the Movies. Kevin Murphy, of course, is the co-founder of RiffTrax, and he was Tom Servo on MST3K, and in his book, A Year at the Movies, he spends a chapter talking about Universal Studios Hollywood. He basically, is very dismissive of it. He calls it a fake experience, which, yeah, it kind of is. I mean, I talk in this review about how the second-person narrative is kind of inherently fake, but what's wrong with that, necessarily? I mean, movies are fake, and no one really complains about that. This is just a new form of fakeness, and just because it hadn't been done before all that much before this ride, doesn't mean it's invalid. And, of course, my montage of every time travel movie ever, or at least every one I could think of. There's a few movies in here that aren't actually time travel movies, they just sort of are set in the future or something, and I kind of regret that. I think I should have just kept it time travel movies. I also wish I had connected them to each other a bit more, rather than just this happened and this happened and this happened and all that, but, meh. That would have been hard. It's interesting that I used the MST3K episode on Time Chasers rather than actually using Time Chasers. And I think it's safe to say that no one knows or will ever know what was really going on in Donnie Darko. And if you think you do, then you're a communist with bad breath. I sure showed you. And obviously that tiny smidge of Doc Brown DNA reference was a reference to A Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury. And of course, this montage contains all of the Show Me Your Doc entries, and I do mean all of them, except for one. I won't say who sent it, but someone sent me a video of just them saying Doc Brown catchphrases in normal street clothes, and you gotta try harder than that. I mean, they said it was a joke entry, but I say, no, the guy who dressed as Marty, that was a joke entry. There's no joke if you're not even doing anything. And of course, I got enough people saying I was frozen today that I was able to break them up into 3 parts. I also saved a few of the Doc Brown impressions I got over the years and months for this montage because I figured if no one submits anything to the Show Me Your Doc contest, I'm gonna still need some sort of joke here. What say you about that scenario, Dueling Bob Gales?
One of the problems that we had a lot was
different units, which we did.
And nobody would have ever thought of this one.
To show a picture
We'd be shooting outside on the back lot
get me this image,
at night.
and
It
just try to
was
explain
really
to
cold
him
out there. It was
what the shot is that you want. That's
and the way that the rolling doors
it's a better way of communicating.
stayed up was
Plus,
there were these little
everybody needed to know,
gas
all right,
jet
which
things
shot
that,
is
used to
which
open up
unit
the door.
responsible for.
And
we had
when
the
we left the
storyboards color
door open
coded. One
for
color
a while,
was the first unit, one color was the
gas
second
would
unit,
condense
one
and
color was
cold,
for insert,
and the door
another
would
color
just
was
start
for
to drop
ILM,
down in the middle of the
another
take. So
color
finally
was
we
for
had to do in
first
between
unit
takes. We had the
on the
special effects
stage,
crew out
first
there
unit
with
on
portable hair
location,
dryers.
all kinds of stuff
And they
like
were
that.
in there
It's just
heating up
a much
heating
better
up those
way.
valves.
And of course, in this grid, I'm burning off the last of the entries and showing a few of my favorite Doc Brown impressionists from YouTube, and also just a bunch of other Docs. I know Doc from the Seven Dwarves is in there, and Doc Hopper, and Doc Ock, and Rick from Rick and Morty. And this cigarette commercial coming up was actually a deleted scene from the first Back to the Future movie. Zemeckis and Gale thought it'd be fun to make a cigarette commercial in 1985 because they didn't make them for real anymore, and it would have played on the TV in the scene at Lorraine's house. And it's a deleted scene that's sort of on the DVD. You can't access it through the DVD menus, but it is available like in the files of the DVD with encryption or shit or what. I don't know how the technical shit works, but it is on YouTube, which is where I got it. Also on YouTube is Bob Gale's commentary on this deleted scene. And speaking of Bob Gale,
We just introduced that in the
certainly
sequel.
from
We
my
realized that
perspective,
in the first movie,
part
the
3 was
character
the most
who makes
fun
a change
of the 3
was
movies
George
to make.
McFly.
We were on distant
We
locations.
needed to have Marty go
I got to wear
through
cowboy
a
hats on
change
set every
in the
day,
course
that
of
was
the
cool.
sequels.
And it was
And so we
a
gave him
distant
this,
location that was absolutely beautiful. You woke up at
incidentally, I'd like to point out that the whole idea to make Doc Brown a tree was that of my friend Morgan Funder, aka The Wire of the Idiot's Lantern. I was talking to her about the idea that I would hold auditions for all the different Doc Browns and then get tired of them, and she suddenly interjected, "So you choose a tree to be Doc Brown?" And I was like, sure. For some reason, Morgan doesn't consider herself a funny person, but she is capable of some moments of absolute crazy brilliance like that. And this guy, Rob Bergman, I know it's not the most elaborate costume. His wig is just a paper towel on his head. I know it's not the most dead-on vocal impression, but it won because it just made me laugh the hardest of all of them. Just the delivery on the line, "But it tastes average," just kills me every time. And I do legally consider him the real Doc Brown for the past 6 months and the next 6 months. I have yet to convince the United Nations to corroborate me on that assertion, but I'm working on it. So coming up here, we got the montage where I finally actually review the ride and offer my thoughts on it, and all that stuff is pretty self-explanatory, so if you'll indulge me, I would like to try something that's never been done before. Now, I can't promise a positive or negative outcome of this, but I would like to experiment. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you dueling Bob Gales.
Well, the mechanics of the time at one time when they had the trains actually pushing the DeLorean, it's easy to remember. That was concerned. I didn't think the audience would like to hear that. They wanted to know the idea of what would happen if an accident. She came up with this idea of hanging them upside down. You got a steam thing right behind the DeLorean. The train is just going to run over the DeLorean. I saw him writing we don't have Crispin in it. We have another actor. Put him in make off the track. He's going to be upside down. We were still hard time recognizing really concerned about putting Michael J. Fox. And three, if Crispin then we find having decided to push this locomotive. Then we get to hang him upside down. With a couple of shots when he leans out with the hoverboard to let go of it and for the dock and get it. And I those were actually filmed that supervised where we had to train back backward. There's a guy who the DeLorean going backwards and shooting down the map to get some out to kind of hack that went back to match people against let us have car put them out of take them apart and come back stage. Bob and I used to say we can't make back to Century 3 and you sit down and she's way back to she's got to be in the movie. One of the things that we kept so we decided right there we'll have her play 10, 11, Ancestor, Agnes, and for those that want to know what's the rationalization, we decided, well, fly down somebody's predisposed medically to retract Star Trek because a guy that we didn't really have stuff in his garage, these other peaches that went on to help stick something on the side of the car. Temporarily to see if it worked, and then we would always tell Larry to put some other coil in there, and pretty soon you had to figure this out. And so we also wanted to look dangerous. At the same time, in my opinion, at the end of the day, we want the movie to work run off like that. My action Gary, and those big events that run past, so I get Doc Brown and try to figure out make sure that things on the set that love to today airs fires off. You have all these one of my fondest shots what would happen by the way was watch the action again. So we did actually try to have some sense of the 1985 game. We had a scene where flies down from the sky, had a stone behind the lamppost, and Angela pulls in the driveway.
Oh my God! She can't handle it. She's gonna blow. Take cover! Mankind's hubris caused the fall. After the fall, we spent 400 years wandering through the barren wasteland, searching for some sign of commentary. Searching. Oh, there it is. And now, sadly, even that DeLorean hero car is gone because that whole building has been closed off and it's going to be changed into something else. And that chicken I was eating there is from Jurassic Cafe next door. I had to wrap that drumstick in a napkin and stick it in my pocket and sneak it into that building, and the napkin kind of came off on the chicken because it was still juicy and sticky, and I've had better chicken. And you can actually see in that shot that it's starting to fall off the bone because it's been through so much. Maybe I'd have a better opinion. Now this is the shot where I say I only had the chance to ride Back to the Future once, and that's not quite true. A couple times when I was a kid, a family member would take me to Universal Studios Hollywood or Florida, and the ride was open by that time, and I definitely could have ridden it, but you see, when I was a kid, I was, a spineless little pussy, and I absolutely refused to ride anything that was even remotely thrilling. The lesson is, force little kids on thrill rides, because they might regret you not doing so later. Now watch Charlie's beautiful artsy camera work. He did not tell me he was going to do that. That was on the last take, and there was no choice which take I would use. That was just fucking beautiful. And at the risk of sounding immodest, I think this montage is my finest hour as an editor. Because I think it really kind of gets you choked up, and it makes you really miss this big dumb time travel ride. The music is part of the late great James Horner's score for We're Back, a Dinosaur Story, which is a really stupid movie with really beautiful music in it. Footage from the very last night that Back to the Future the ride was open in Florida. And when Spielberg said these words that someday Back to the Future will be replaced by a new ride, how little he could have known that the TV show responsible for Do the Bartman would be that ride's undoing. So this shot coming up is the most complicated shot I've ever done. Took forever to shoot, took forever to edit, took forever to render, and worth it. And here it is. Now you can see there's one me that's slightly differently colored from the others, and that's because that me was in the real location and all the others were green screened. This shot coming up was kind of added at the last minute. I thought it'd be funny to call back to, I'm going to go back and tell Mom to abort us. And that is Haley Baker Callahan, a.k.a. Trickster Bell, a.k.a. Charlie's wife, as my mother. I guess that makes Charlie my dad, so fuck you, Dad. I refuse to play with my Figment toys. You don't understand me! And here is footage from my very first review of the Country Bears movie, and then cut to footage of me more recently, and I'm about 20 pounds heavier and my hair's about half as long. Obviously, if I had known back in 2011 that I would be eventually doing this bit, I would have shot all this footage then, and saved myself some trouble and made it look more authentic, but I didn't know what the hell I'd still be doing in 2015 at that point, and that's why time travel needs to really exist. Get on it, science, you lazy fucks. And this title was made out of 2 dead hookers and no twigs. And yes, this is probably what I'd be doing today if I didn't have my show. I'd just be a hateful troll with no friends just typing into the ether and considering it a badge of honor when people block me. This was the very last thing I shot for the Back to the Future 3-parter, and before I shot it, I let my beard grow for about a month so it could get longer and scragglier. And if you freeze frame right about there, you can see that on my Twitter feed, I've literally tweeted the same tweet over and over and over again. Definition of insanity. Now, I'm aware that this raises all sorts of logical questions, like, how did the Nostalgia Critic know to contact me? How did he know that I was the one who changed the past and inadvertently caused Figment's reign of terror? How did he know that I had the power to go back in time again and make it unhappen? And how the hell did he commandeer my laptop screen? Well, all I can say to those questions is, don't question the purge, it just works. And this is one of the very rare occasions on Some Jerk with a Camera where I'm actually shooting inside my own apartment. Yes, it's a fucking mess. And now you start to understand why I decided to shoot my show at theme parks. And in this shot here, even though the visual is reshot, obviously, the audio is from my original Country Bears episode. I'm just lip-syncing it. And this ending, where I reverse the curse and cause my show to actually happen, raises even more logical questions, like, if my show proceeds as planned like it did in the first place, then eventually I would get to my Back to the Future the Ride review. And in my Back to the Future the Ride review, I would go back in time all those times and create all those additional me's, and I would try to go back and abort myself again, and it would just go in a loop over and over and over again, and I would never get to the Simpsons Ride review, logically. And also, what happens to all the extra me's? Well, to those questions, I say, a wizard did it. And all the extra me's got sold to a hot dog factory. Yay! Hey, hot dog!
Hot dogs, hot dogs, hot dogs, hot dogs,
Hot dogs made of jerks. Hot dogs made of jerks. You ain't had a real hot dog till you had a hot dog made of jerks. That's right. Hot dog made of jerks. Hot dog made of jerks. We put extra jerk in your hot dog, and your hot dog's made of jerks. Yeah. Well, here at Hot Dog Made of Jerks, we got hot dogs. We got hot dogs made of all kinds of jerks. We got hot dogs made of big old jerks, hot dogs made of little old jerks. But we can guarantee that every single hot dog you buy at Hot Dog Made of Jerks is filled with all natural, 100% quality human jerk. Hot Dog Made of Jerks. Now that's food. End of song. Yes. And this song is called Old Doc Brown. It was written by Red Sovine and performed by the man in black himself, Johnny Cash. And when I learned of its existence, I knew there was no other song that could possibly end the Back to the Future The Ride review. Doc Brown has moved upstairs indeed, and long live the future. And that's the commentary on my Back to the Future The Ride review. And until next time, in the words of the immortal Biff Tannen...
Thanks, Doc Brown. You saved my life. Butthead! Oh!